Hi Sarita, how are you?
Good, Jule. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So today, what shall we talk about?
We're going to talk about something around and see where it takes us, but something around how do we learn to really trust ourselves? It seems to me that I'm talking about this a lot with people and with myself. How do we learn it in a world or an upbringing or a conditioning or an experience where we have been taught to actively distrust ourselves? That's my view on that,
Yes.
and it comes through very clearly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important, isn't it? Is the connection to our inner trust. And as you say, a lot of people grow up without ever having developed that skill because it's kind of subcontracted out to other people, parents, communities, belief systems. And so we're not consciously taught how to connect to our inner world and our intuition and our decision making kind of centers and anything like that. So yeah, I think we both agree that it's the center of both of our work is connecting people back to their inner trust. But how do you start from nothing? Yeah, that's the key question.
Yes. How do you start from nothing with, as you say, those inner indicators that we're on the right track are severely underdeveloped in us, really, because we've, as so beautifully put, subcontracted our trust to the outer world and professionals and teachers and parents and whatever else. So it's it's a practice, isn't it?
It's a practice. And so it kind of like when you start learning about this, it's like a little switch that you flick on, and it's just that self-awareness as you start to recognize where does that thought come from, where does that behavior come from, where does that response come from, and then when you start to question it, you can start to delve a little bit deeper into the mechanisms of it. Because I find a lot like people who can't make decisions, who are really indecisive, if you really get to the core belief, like some people, as one example, like have a real fear of responsibility. And so underneath that lack of decision making is they don't want to be responsible for making the decision because if it goes wrong, they'll feel this immense guilt. So it's like a protective mechanism of, and that could come from childhood where they've been shamed or criticized for making the wrong decision or doing the wrong thing. So it starts, I guess, with a behavior, maybe that's how a behavior that you want to question, and then you go deeper into like, well, what's the core fear or belief of that? And then once you identify that it's because there's a fear of responsibility or whatever that core belief is, then you can start to change it by developing and doing a lot of different activities or daily things because it's like a habit, like a muscle that you have to build, you know, just like physical health needs regular maintenance, your mental health and your inner world needs regular awareness to keep it in check and to really understand how you function.
Mm, that's it. And also, a big part of that is also gaining confidence. When I think we can all find an area of our lives that we're confident in, and to really go into the place of that confident area, and what makes us confident in that area. And then being able to use that experience to apply to the areas that we're not so confident in to build that trust. I think most of us can find even a small thing that we feel confident in doing, that we trust ourselves to do correctly, right? If, for want of a better word or phrase, that we can use as an example that we're not entirely untrustworthy with ourselves, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, it's a really good place to start, isn't it? If someone's like, I
Yeah.
don't know, like I can't identify anything, is to ask, where are you most confident?
Yes.
And then maybe compare it to where you're least confident and see where that feels different in your body or where that feels different in your mind or your thought processes. But yeah,
Yes.
thinking back, like even in my most unhealed, unaware state, if I think, what could I even then feel confident about, I can identify something. So yeah, it's a good yeah, and I'll give the example. So I've always been confident with creativity and ideas. So even in my most unhealed state, as I said, like I was still really thought I was good at that. Like I could really trust that. And if I think about why, it's because it just flowed. I didn't actually have to try too hard. It just flowed and it took me into a different state. So, knowing what I know now, that state is actually a really internal process. So yeah, identifying, I guess, like what that feels like, and then where else you could apply that flow state, that trust, where you're not having to think about it, it just happens.
Yes. And I think by using those sort of examples in your life, it gives you this kind of confidence to also look to the areas that you're not so trusting of yourself in. You can delve in there a little more easily when you
Mm,
know that there are some. I had a client recently who is very distrustful of their health state, the state of their health and their body. But they were able to recognize they were very trusting in their ability to drive and not get killed on the road, for
mm,
instance. It was such a realization for that person in the moment. It was like,
mm.
hang on a minute. I'm not, like really distrustful of every area of my life. There are
Yeah.
some things that it's a given that I trust X, Y, or Z, but other areas it's like, don't even ask me about it because I just don't know who I am in that.
And finding the difference between those two situations is so helpful and useful. That's the key.
Yes.
So yeah, I love that. Like I love that. So he can
Yeah.
hold the two things, and maybe he's never put them two things together before. But if you sit there and really focus on those two things, where you are confident and where you are not, the key is in the difference. What does that feel like? And what's
Mm.
the core belief between both of those things
That's it. And
underneath? Because they're two separate things.
yes. And that's where it can get really, really interesting because we can stay in curiosity when we're delving into those other parts of ourselves. And so, as you say, as you quite rightly said at the beginning, was this idea where you go in and you find this core sort of belief around whatever it is you're working with. It's then you can really delve in there with that curiousness or that curiosity and potentially enjoy the experience.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know about
Yes.
you, but if I can enjoy an experience, I'm going to embrace it far more than if I'm like, please
Yeah.
don't. I need to, but I don't really want to, type of
Yeah.
feeling.
Exactly. And there's a lot of us who really are interested in, humans and human behavior and why we do the things we do and, how we do the things we do. And I think yeah, one of I think from someone who's like completely living on automatic and doesn't have the inner, they're just going through the system, like they're living within the system that they've been brought up with, the belief system, the conditioning, and all the beliefs and stories that they have about themselves. The first key moment to changing anything is to separate yourself slightly from that automatic, as if you're observing you from a little bit of distance. As the very first step is to create that little bit of observational difference. Why am I doing that? Why am I thinking that? And that's the key, really. It's just that self-reflection habit that you have to build. And, it can be a daily habit or every few days or, you know, a reminder that you set on the phone. But that's the very first step, I would say, is the
Yeah.
awareness. Just start to be aware.
And that's a really good point, actually, Jewel, because how can we create that perspective, that really important perspective where we can look at our own thoughts or our own feelings or even our own experiences in our body without 100% identification in the moment, like whether we're completely in it. And it has to be some kind of embodiment practice, doesn't it? Whether it be
Yeah,
breathing or whether it be moving or just becoming aware of our bodies.
yeah. I guess it would be different for everybody, dependent on what they're drawn to.
Mm,
Um, and I would say that often in an automatic state or a trigger or one of those reactions that you just didn't really think about, you just did it before you had time
mm,
to think about it, is not the time to reflect on it. So maybe even like the
mm.
day after would be better. And then you can go into those kind of like meditative kind of inward states a little bit easier. I think trying to force it, I know that's not what you were saying. I'm just giving an example of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
trying
no,
to,
that's perfect.
if you're really triggered, trying to analyze yourself in that moment is not the thing to do, is what I'm trying to say. Just give it a day, go back to it the next day or a couple of days later. Um, and then yeah, like you say, there's like meditate. I'd say I can't do traditional meditation. My brain can't handle it. So to me, it has to be structured. So it could be prompts, I guess, just giving some different examples. You could do journal prompts, or you could do breathing exercises, or you could do little storytelling, or a little interview pretending that you're not you and you're interviewing what happened, is again to try and create that little bit of separation between your automatic responses and there's this other voice, is what where the trust lies. There's this other kind of voice. In IFS we call that like the self energy, or you call it intuition, or the soul's wisdom, however you want to.
Yeah, I call it your essential self, that self that feels very just right in the core of you.
Mm,
Um, and it's a bit like in the hypnotic world or in the hypnosis or relaxation world, we talk about it in terms of when you're just about to fall asleep at night and you're conscious but you're super relaxed. You can hear all the sounds around you, sort of aware of how comfortable your bed feels. You have a sense of your body lying there just before you drop off to sleep. And it's sort of that's when I believe that we have, so our brain waves are in such a state as we're kind of really in ourselves.
mm,
And that is again, it's practicing
mm,
and seeking support to get there, I think, in terms of becoming a truly supportive a self-supporter,
mm.
to delve into how you can trust yourself. Does that
Yes,
make sense? It
it
sounded a bit
does.
verbose then, but
No, it absolutely makes sense.
it's
And
not something you can suddenly just go, oh, I'm going to start teaching myself to trust myself. Well, yes, potentially you could do that, but
yeah,
compassionate self-compassion comes into it, and it's like it's got to be, well, let's just one step at a time here and get to know who I am right now.
yeah, because it's a process and it's a long process. So trying to rush it and like do all this self-analysis and like trying to figure your entire system out in one day is not going to do it, and again, I think a lot of people are more aware of like the physical body. That's like, not doing exercise for a year and then all of a sudden like running a marathon in one day and going to the gym,
That's
and then
it.
you can't do that with your mental stuff too and your inner
No,
psyche. You can't just sit
no.
down for one whole day and do a massive journaling session and a meditation session and a real self-analysis, self-reflection thing and figure it all out. It's too much, it's
Yes,
overwhelming, and you'll get really
yes,
stressed and fatigued and confused about that, and then you'll leave it for another time. So it's really small things, very regularly, repeatedly for a very long time, is the key to understanding your inner system. And that's where you'll find the self-trust and the safety, the inner safety, and you'll start to be aware. So it's a practice that has to be it's a long game. It's a long game. Just as with the physical, it's better to do a walk a day for like 6 months rather than one whole weekend of hiking with a friend and then nothing for the rest of the time. It's the
Yeah,
same principle.
it is the same principle. And it just like the fitness of the body, the fitness of the psyche, is an ongoing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
And
permanent, really, isn't
it's
it?
a meeting of oneself, isn't it?
It
Just like
is.
when you
Yeah.
decide you're going to become fit in your body, you kind of go, you say a yes to yourself, don't you? You sort of, on some level,
Yeah.
you kind of go, yep, this is for me, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's the same with the psyche. So it's a really good point. It's probably the point. It's never ending in a way.
Yeah, it
It's an
is. And
ongoing exploration.
it is. And I don't want that to sound like, oh, you have to do this forever, but it's kind of, you'll want to, I guess is the point, because it feels so different. You feel so much more in control of yourself and your life path and your goals, just living with awareness, just as if you are keeping up with maintaining your physical body, you feel more with like you've got more energy or you feel more settled within yourself as well. So it's the similar approach. It's just we don't really view it like that. It's not really marketed like that, is it? Like the inner work is not really marketed as like, get fit and healthy and but it's kind of the same. They're linked together.
Yes, I think they very much are. And I think trust in body, trust in mind are very connected as being a whole human.
Exactly.
And
That's the key word, isn't it? It's
the
the whole,
whole
yeah,
human
the whole
thing. Yeah.
human, because everything's connected. You can't just ignore your physical body and do the inner work, and you can't do it the other way around. We are all connected, and everything has a knock-on effect with, like you say, the mind, body, physical. It's the wholeness, and that's how you
Mm,
create wholeness is by looking at the whole system. We are systems.
yes, agreed. So trusting
Yes.
oneself
So
is an
yeah.
ongoing, deepening experience of mind and body.
Yes, it is. It's an ongoing thing. And where do you start if you've never done this before? You just start with one tiny thing. Just look at, the day that you've just had or one interaction with somebody else and just start to observe why you responded in the conversation. It doesn't have to be a bad conversation, just anything. It's literally the observation that you're trying to do. And just observe, why do you think you responded like that? Why do you think you said that? And write it down maybe, and that's
Write
it.
it down.
Don't
Yeah,
try and
that's always
analyze
a
it
good
too much.
start, is to sort of journal. Well, what are some of the things? Let's just list them, So there's journaling. Some people really like the idea of getting a special book and writing
Yeah,
down their thoughts every day and just starting to explore that way. It doesn't have to be right or wrong thing or do it or don't. Other people like the idea of just breathing a little bit, through
yeah,
different times of the day. I've got you know, some of my clients love to just put it on their phones as a reminder every hour, as a
mm,
little alarm thing, which
yeah,
just gets them to pause and be with themselves for just a couple of seconds even.
yeah, and
It's just these little simple things that don't have to take up a lot of time, but which grow in you and develop in you over time as this sort of portal to yourself.
yes, I love that. A portal to yourself. And experiment with what works for you and what doesn't. So I'm not a very traditional mindfulness person. I am also neurodivergent, that's probably why, but I cannot do written journaling at all. It's too slow for my brain. And I get really frustrated because I can't write quick enough for how my brain is thinking and wants to just get everything out on the page.
Mm,
And then I also have a whole thing of like, I don't want people to see it and take it out of context. And, because I've always been so misunderstood in my life. Like, I don't want people to take one thing out of context and then like blame me for it or shame me for it. So I have a whole thing about writing it down that I can't do. But what I can do, what works for me is a voice note to myself. So I've got like a voice note recording app on my phone. And if I'm out for a walk, I'll just like put my headphones in and I'll just rant to myself and then just I can either sometimes it's really interesting to listen to it back and hear my own words. That creates that separation I was talking about of, the observation and the separation from like your behaviors and your in IFS would call it like blended with a part rather than being in your self energy. So that can work for me. So don't feel bad if everyone's telling you to do one thing and it doesn't work for you.
Yes, exactly.
Breathing, yeah, because breathing with no structure does not work for me. Does not work for me at all.
Yes, that's my go-to, breathing.
Okay, yeah, no, it doesn't work. So I have to have it either very visual, and so I'll go into a visual story of like this is one character and this is another, and or a guided, a very structured and very precise guided kind of reflection. And there's loads on the internet. So you can probably find one that's very tailored to what you want. But there's loads of IFS ones as well for parts work. So you can go on and go, bring up a part, what's your part feeling? Those work way better for me because they're more structured. So I would say like, yeah, try all different things. And then when you find the thing that works for you, just keep doing that as your practice,
That's
as
it.
as regularly as you feel comfortable to do.
Yes. And there's lots of places that you can go to get that kind of guidance on what might work best for you, like getting in touch with someone that you can work through that. I want to learn to be more in myself. I want to, whatever it might be, get help.
Yes.
But also just know that there's no wrong way to do it. Just as there's no right way to do it, it really is about just exploring. I know for me, there's been different things at different times of my life that have worked for me.
Yeah,
Sometimes I
that's true.
have journaled, whereas now I wouldn't probably journal. I know going for a short walk makes a difference to me.
Yeah, same.
Um,
Yeah, I definitely need that because some of us are like external processes or like kinesthetic processes, which is the movement. So yeah, my brain clicks into place when I'm moving.
yes,
So that's
yes,
where it can link with the exercise. Go for a swim in the morning, go for a walk, and just use that as your reflection time. Oh, how am I feeling? Like what's going on inside? Yeah, that
yes.
really works for
It's
me.
sort
That
of
really
like
works for me.
it's the original somatic exercise,
It
isn't it,
is, it
really?
is.
In
And
terms of, it also provides you with an outlet to express without, verbally expressing as
mm,
well.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the movement definitely works for me. But then again, this is where finding what works for you is important because some people cannot do that at all. And then they'll get really frustrated because there's too many distractions and they can't focus because, like, look, this person's just walked past me, or look at that nice dog. And they can't do that at all. So some
Yes.
people need to create an absolute solitude around them to be able to internally reflect. So find what works
Yep.
for you.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're relaxing somehow, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
relaxing first, or providing ourselves with an experience that is relaxing, and then we can reflect
Yes.
in whatever way we're doing. So I guess the big picture is we to be able to self-reflect, we need to have a level of relaxation to do that. So when we're in the middle of being triggered by something, or we're stressed about something, don't try and work out what's going on in
No.
that moment. It's more that, okay, what do I need right now? Is
Mm.
it that I need to have to stop what I'm doing and move where I am, or whether it's, depending on what's going on with, it could be
Yeah.
get in some water, or it can be, talk to a friend, or whatever it might be. So
Yeah, because what we're talking about here right now is not how to calm yourself down in a state of nervous system activation or dysregulation where you're really stressed or something's happened and you're all in your head about it. That's not
mm,
what we're saying right now. We're just saying, like, create a daily practice, if possible, daily or as regularly as possible, where it's not the catalyst is not an event, it's just a daily habit. So if
yes,
it's
that's a really
less,
good point. Yes.
yeah. So whether it be last thing at night, like you said, where some people really enjoy that, getting into bed and feeling all of the sensory things around them, the mattress, the covers, and all of that, that can be a really good time. Or first thing in the morning, before you turn on your phone, before you watch the news. Just take even 5 minutes or 10 minutes to just sit there and just ask yourself how you're doing. That's what I think that's what we're talking
Yes,
about today is like
very good
it's
point.
the setting up the practice, the
Yes.
daily practice of awareness and self-reflection. And that's it. Don't
And
overthink
that
it at
builds,
that
and
point.
over time, we're going to be building trust in ourselves because it has to happen that way.
Yeah.
Has to. It's logical. If we're spending more time with ourselves, we get to know ourselves, we get to build trust in ourselves.
Yeah, and there's, maybe we'll build on that in other talks, but there's different specific things that you can do to build inner trust as well. I think, yeah, creating the space is what we're kind of talking about today. Create the space to be able to enact that.
Lovely.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Sarita.
Thank
And
you, Jule. Great
we'll,
talk as always. Very
yes,
enjoyable.
see you next time.
See you next time.